Welcome, curious souls. To Grave Vale echoes your portal to the world's most chilling mysteries and untold stories. Join us as we uncover the strange, the supernatural, and the truly unexplained. Deep within Peru's desolate plains, immense figures are etched into the earth. For centuries, they lay unseen, silent witnesses to an ancient, terrifying secret. What dark purpose drove their creators? The vast, unforgiving expanse of the Nazca Desert in Peru is a place of stark beauty and profound silence. For countless centuries, it held a secret, etched into its very surface, waiting to be seen. A secret so immense, so deliberately hidden, that its eventual revelation would send a shiver through the world, forcing a terrifying reevaluation of what we thought we knew about ancient civilizations and their impossible ambitions. This desolate, sun-baked landscape, often shrouded in a deceptive haze, was the silent canvas for an enigma that lay unseen, a testament to an ancient, terrifying purpose that only the vast, empty sky could truly comprehend. Before the dawn of the 20th century, these colossal markings were simply part of the land, indistinguishable from natural geological formations to anyone traversing the ground. Travelers, prospectors, and indigenous peoples passed over them, perhaps noting unusual patterns in the rocks, but never grasping the true, unsettling scale of what lay beneath their feet. They were merely faint discolorations, shallow furrows, indistinguishable from the countless natural variations of a desert floor that had seen millennia of wind and sun. If someone had been asked about them, they might have shrugged, attributing them to old pathways, dried riverbeds, or simply the whims of nature. There was no hint of design, no whisper of intelligence, no sense of a deliberate message encoded in the arid earth. The desert held its secrets close, its vastness serving as the perfect shroud. The unsettling realization of their true nature began to unfold with the advent of flight. As the early 20th century gave way to more widespread aerial exploration and commercial flights, human eyes finally ascended high enough to witness the impossible. It wasn't a planned discovery, not an archaeological expedition specifically seeking ancient wonders from the sky. Instead, it was an accidental, almost horrifying revelation. Pilots and passengers, flying over the barren Nazca plains, began to report seeing things. Not just random patterns, but distinct, massive shapes, animals, geometric figures, lines stretching for miles suddenly snapping into focus from above. What looked like insignificant trails or natural depressions from the ground transformed into breathtaking, monumental art when viewed from an airplane's window. This shift in perspective was not merely a change of viewpoint. It was a psychological jolt. The initial reports were met with a mixture of disbelief and fascination. Could these truly be artificial? Were they man-made? The unsettling truth slowly dawned. These were not natural phenomena, nor were they random tracks. They were meticulously crafted geoglyphs, deliberate designs etched into the very crust of the earth by an unknown, ancient hand. The revelation was profound, pushing the boundaries of what was conceivable for ancient peoples. Created an immediate, chilling puzzle. Who crafted such monumental art meant for an aerial observer when human flight was millennia away? The very existence of these lines, visible only from above, hinted at a secret communication, a message meant for the sky, rather than for the people who walked the earth. This disquieting design choice, this impossible visibility, became the central enigma of the Nazca lines. From the ground, these sprawling geoglyphs are, quite simply, invisible in their entirety. Imagine standing within the outline of a massive hummingbird, its wingspan stretching hundreds of feet. You would see only a shallow trench, a scattering of darker stones, a subtle change in the earth's texture. You could not, perceive the bird. You would not grasp its form, its graceful curves, its delicate features. It would be an abstract, meaningless collection of lines and furrows beneath your feet, no different from any other natural imperfection in the landscape. The same holds true for the colossal spider, the intricate monkey, or the perfect geometric trapezoids that span vast distances. From eye level, they are fragments, broken pieces of an unknown puzzle, offering no hint of the grand design above. This absolute dependence on an aerial vantage point for comprehension is what makes the Nazca lines so profoundly unsettling. They were clearly not meant to be appreciated by ground-bound humans. Their creators designed them with a perspective in mind that humanity would only achieve thousands of years later. This fact alone creates a deep sense of unease, a feeling of being outside the intended audience, perhaps even an intruder on a secret conversation. To fly over these figures for the first time, to see a perfect condor or a powerful lizard emerge from the featureless plain, is to experience a moment of profound awe, but also a creeping dread. It's like finding a letter addressed to someone else, written in a language you don't fully understand, yet clearly conveying a message of immense importance. The immediate, haunting question that settled over those who first witnessed them from above was both simple and terrifying. Who were these for? If not for the people who lived and toiled on the land, then for whom? The Nazca people, as far as we understand, possessed no technology that would allow them to view their own monumental creations from the sky. They built no towers tall enough, no hot air balloons, no gliders. Their world was entirely terrestrial. Yet, they poured immense effort, skill, and resources into crafting art that could only be fully appreciated from an impossible height. This undeniable fact sparked a chain of unsettling inquiries that continue to resonate through the silent desert today. The very concept of creating something so vast, so meticulously planned, yet completely hidden from the human eye on the ground, defies conventional understanding of ancient art or communication. Art, typically, is made to be seen, to be admired, to convey meaning to its direct audience. But the Nazca lines append this fundamental premise. They whisper of an intended viewer who was not bound by the earth, an entity capable of soaring above, observing, and perhaps understanding the message embedded in the desert floor. This immediate, chilling implication that an entire civilization might have been communicating with something or someone else, something beyond our human realm, was profoundly unsettling. It opened a door to possibilities that stretched the very fabric of human history and our place within the cosmos. A deep unease settled over those who first witnessed them from above, an unease that has only deepened with time and further study. It wasn't just the scale or the precision that was unnerving. It was the sheer, undeniable disconnect between the creators and the intended viewing experience. It suggested a level of knowledge, a motivation, a belief system that remained utterly alien and terrifyingly beyond our grasp. The silence of the desert, coupled with the silent, watchful figures etched into its surface, became a powerful, disturbing symbol. It was as if the ancient Nazca people had left behind a monument to a terrifying secret, a message deliberately placed out of human reach, patiently waiting for an unknown recipient, or perhaps for a time when humanity itself would finally be able to look up and see what had always been there. Watching from below, the desert held its breath, and the questions lingered, haunting and unanswered, while the desert held its breathtaking secret for centuries, waiting for eyes capable of comprehension. The enigma deepens when we turn our attention to the creators themselves, the Nazca people. Who were these individuals who meticulously etched grand designs into the earth? Figures only visible from a vantage point they could never physically achieve. We know them through the fragments they left behind: vibrant pottery, intricate textiles, and sophisticated irrigation systems. Yet their most monumental work remains a perplexing paradox. Their world, as archaeologists have painstakingly pieced together, was one deeply connected to the land, reliant on its rhythms for survival, a society seemingly grounded in tangible realities. But this grounded existence stands in stark contrast to the ethereal, skyward-facing art that defines their most enduring legacy. The Nazca civilization flourished in the arid southern coastal region of Peru from roughly 100 BCE to 800 CE. They were a people of impressive ingenuity, adapting to one of the driest places on Earth. Their survival depended on an intimate understanding of their environment, and they developed advanced agricultural techniques, including subterranean aqueducts known as puquios, to tap into groundwater and irrigate their crops. Their pottery, famously polychrome, depicts a rich tapestry of life, animals, plants, mythical creatures, and human forms, often rendered with a striking vitality. Their textiles, woven with extraordinary skill, display complex patterns and vibrant colors, speaking to a society with developed artistic traditions and a profound sense of aesthetic. These artifacts tell us of a people with a sophisticated culture, a deep spiritual life, and a highly organized social structure. Yet, this image of an advanced, earthbound civilization clashes violently with the monumental, unseen art they created on the desert floor. The Nazca people, for all their agricultural prowess and artistic flair, possessed no known technology for flight. There is no evidence of gliders, hot air balloons, or any means by which they could have ascended to view their own geoglyphs. This technological gap creates a fundamental paradox. How could a people so advanced in some areas mastering the challenges of their environment, creating beautiful and complex artifacts, be so seemingly limited in others, especially regarding the viewing of their most significant creative output? It is as if a master painter created a magnificent fresco, then immediately sealed it behind a wall, never to be seen by human eyes. This disconnect between their known capabilities and the perceived needs for creating the lines designed for a view they could not experience, is profoundly unsettling. It suggests that the purpose of these geoglyphs transcended the conventional definitions of art or communication intended for fellow humans. It hinted at a secret, a profound motivation that dwarfed the concerns of their daily lives. The sheer scale and meticulous precision of the Nazca lines are a testament to an almost obsessive dedication, a chilling commitment to a purpose we can only guess at. The creation process itself, while seemingly simple, required an extraordinary level of planning, organization, and sustained effort. The Nazca desert floor is covered by a layer of reddish-brown iron oxide-coated stones, known as desert varnish. Beneath this dark surface lies a lighter, yellowish-gray soil. The Nazca artists created their geoglyphs by carefully removing these dark surface stones, exposing the lighter soil underneath, essentially etching colossal drawings into the earth. The lines are not deep trenches, but rather shallow depressions, typically only 10 to 30 centimeters, 4 to 12 inches, deep. Despite their shallow nature, they have endured for centuries thanks to the unique climatic conditions of the Nazca region: extreme aridity, lack of wind, and stable temperatures. The methods employed by the Nazca to achieve such accuracy over vast distances, without the benefit of modern surveying equipment, speak to a truly remarkable level of skill and methodical execution. Archaeologists believe they used simple tools and techniques. For straight lines, they likely stretched ropes between stakes driven into the ground, a method still used today for basic construction. For complex geometric shapes like trapezoids and triangles, they would have extended these techniques, perhaps using multiple ropes and precise measurements. The incredible accuracy of some of these lines, which extend for miles without deviating, suggests a highly organized workforce operating under strict instructions. Even more astounding is the creation of the curvilinear animal figures. To achieve perfect circles and graceful curves on such a massive scale, the Nazca likely employed a variant of the compass method. A central stake would be driven into the ground, and a rope of a precise length would be attached. A worker, holding the rope taut, would then walk in a circle, removing stones along the path. For more complex, freehand shapes like the hummingbird or the monkey, a combination of scaled models and grid systems might have been used. Imagine sketching a small design on a piece of cloth, then painstakingly scaling it up thousands of times, transferring every curve and angle to the desert floor with only stakes, ropes, and a keen eye. This was not a quick, spontaneous act of artistic expression. It was a painstaking, methodical, and almost ritualistic process, requiring immense coordination and a deep, shared understanding of the final, unseen design. This level of meticulousness, applied to art that could not be seen by its creators, hints at an unsettling dedication, profound, almost terrifying sense of purpose that drove their every movement. And then, there is the sheer, incomprehensible labor involved in creating hundreds of these figures. From the intricate animals, some hundreds of feet long, to the perfect geometric lines stretching for miles across the plains. Each required the removal of tons of rock and soil. Imagine the countless hours, days, weeks, and even years of manual labor, performed under the scorching Peruvian sun, using only rudimentary tools. This wasn't the work of a few individuals. It demanded the collective effort of a significant portion of the Nazca population, sustained over generations. The scale of the undertaking beggars belief. Consider the dedication required to clear the surface stones, one by one, for a line that extends for kilometers, or to outline the body of a massive spider, ensuring every leg and joint is rendered with precision. This was not a fleeting endeavor. The creation of these geoglyphs must have been an integral, perhaps even central, aspect of their society for centuries. What could motivate such monumental, unseen work? What power? What belief? What fear compelled an entire civilization to dedicate so much of its energy and resources to a project that remained hidden from their own eyes? The reasons for this colossal effort remain profoundly unsettling. If these were simply ceremonial paths, why the need for such intricate, aerial designs? If they were astronomical calendars, why etch them in a way that requires an impossible perspective? The effort involved far surpasses what would be necessary for ground-level functionality. This leaves us with a chilling conclusion. The purpose behind the Nazca lines was of such immense, overwhelming importance that the sheer labor, the lack of earthly visibility, and the generational commitment were not merely accepted but were, in fact, essential components of their meaning. It hints at a communication not for the living on the ground, but for something else entirely. Perhaps a deity in the sky, perhaps ancestral spirits, or, as some more speculative theories suggest, perhaps for entities not of this world at all. The very act of creation, the immense, almost ritualistic effort, might have been the message itself, a profound and desperate plea, or an offering made to a higher power, a silent, monumental whisper etched into the desert floor for an audience unknown, yet deeply feared or revered. The Nazca people, through their enigmatic craftsmanship, left us not just art, but a terrifying question carved into the very earth. A question that continues to echo in the silent, watchful desert. Why? Even with the profound mystery of their unseen creation, archaeologists and scholars have dedicated decades to offering explanations for the Nazca lines, striving to anchor these colossal etchings in the understandable world of human endeavor. These theories attempt to demystify the Nazca's most enduring legacy, proposing practical, earthbound reasons for their existence. Yet, as we delve into these explanations, a chilling truth emerges. While they offer tantalizing glimpses into the possible functions of some lines, they ultimately leave an unsettling void, failing to fully account for the profound, almost terrifying questions that linger beneath the arid Peruvian sun. These earthly interpretations, while plausible on the surface, often only deepen the mystery, highlighting the very aspects they struggle to explain and pushing us towards a more unsettling conclusion about the line's true purpose. One of the most prominent and enduring theories suggests that the Nazca lines functioned as an astronomical calendar, a sophisticated celestial observatory etched directly into the desert floor. This idea gained significant traction through the meticulous work of German mathematician and archaeologist Maria Reich, who dedicated over 50 years of her life to studying and preserving the geoglyphs. She proposed that many of the lines and figures aligned with significant celestial events, the rising and setting of the sun at solstices and equinoxes, the positions of certain stars, or even the movements of the moon. To understand the profound importance of such an astronomical calendar for the Nazca people, we must consider their harsh environment. The Nazca region is one of the driest places on Earth. Life and survival were utterly dependent on understanding and predicting the scarce rainfall, the seasonal flow of rivers, and the optimal times for planting and harvesting. In a world without modern meteorology, the sky was the ultimate oracle. The movements of celestial bodies were directly linked to earthly cycles, signaling the change of seasons, the arrival of vital water, or the timing for spiritual rituals. Precise calendar, etched into the landscape, would have been an invaluable tool, a critical guide for their very survival. Imagine a Nazca priest or astronomer observing the dawn on the winter solstice. A long, perfectly straight line stretches across the desert, pointing directly to the precise spot on the horizon where the sun makes its lowest appearance. Or perhaps, a prominent figure like the spider or the monkey, its form subtly aligned with a specific constellation at a particular time of year, indicating the start of a crucial planting season or the time for a vital water offering. Reich's work provided compelling evidence for some of these alignments. She argued that the precise orientation of certain lines and figures could have served as giant indicators, guiding the Nazca people in their agricultural practices, helping them determine the optimal times for irrigation and planting in an unforgiving landscape where a miscalculation could mean starvation. These lines, from this perspective, were not just art, but a functional, life-sustaining apparatus, a monumental clock face for the heavens. The theory suggests a practical, vital function, a testament to the Nazca's advanced astronomical knowledge and their desperate need to harness the rhythms of nature. It presents the lines as a brilliant adaptation to their environment, a way to imprint celestial knowledge onto the physical world. This explanation offers a sense of comfort, grounding the mystery in human ingenuity and the universal struggle for survival. It makes the lines seem understandable, albeit on a colossal scale. Yet, even as we acknowledge the potential for some astronomical correlations, a chilling question persists. If the primary purpose was simply to mark celestial events for agricultural timing, why create geoglyphs that are only fully discernible from thousands of feet in the air? Simpler, ground-level markers, standing stones, cairns, or even small, easily visible etchings would have sufficed. The immense labor, the extraordinary precision, and most importantly, the aerial perspective required to appreciate the full design, seem utterly excessive for a purely functional calendar. This practical, yet incomplete, explanation leaves an unsettling void. It explains what they might have measured, but not why they chose such an impossible, sky-facing medium to record it. The form profoundly contradicts the presumed function, leaving the uncomfortable feeling that something deeper, something more unsettling, lies beneath the surface. Another widely discussed earthly explanation positions the Nazca lines as processional pathways or sacred routes, deeply imbued with ritualistic significance. This theory suggests that the lines were not primarily meant to be seen from above, but rather to be experienced on the ground, walked upon by pilgrims or priests during elaborate ceremonies. In ancient Andean cultures, ritual landscapes were common, with sacred paths leading to important natural sites like mountain peaks, apis, springs, or ceremonial centers. The act of walking, of undertaking a journey along a prescribed route, was often itself a form of devotion, a spiritual pilgrimage. Many of the Nazca lines, particularly the long, straight ones and the vast trapezoidal figures, are wide enough and flat enough to have been walked upon. Imagine a procession of Nazca people, perhaps in times of drought, moving slowly and deliberately along a winding path etched into the desert, their prayers and offerings rising with the dust. These paths might have led to water sources, like the Puquios, those remarkable subterranean aqueducts that provided life-sustaining water. The ritualistic journey along these lines could have been an appeal to the gods for rain, an act of thanksgiving for a successful harvest, or a pilgrimage to a sacred site where offerings were made. The trapezoids, in particular, with their broad, open surfaces, could have served as gathering places, ceremonial plazas where large groups could assemble for rituals before or after traversing the lines. The very act of clearing the desert floor to create these paths, the communal effort involved, could have been a powerful, unifying ritual in itself, a way for the community to connect with their spiritual beliefs and their ancestors. This explanation offers a compelling narrative of ancient, forgotten rites. It connects the lines directly to the daily lives and spiritual practices of the Nazca people, giving them a tangible, human purpose. The lines become more than just markings. They transform into conduits for spiritual energy, stages for sacred dramas played out under the vast desert sky. The emphasis here is on the experience of the lines from a ground-level perspective. The sensory journey, the physical act of moving along these consecrated routes. This idea resonates with archaeological findings about Nazca ceremonial practices, including evidence of human sacrifice and elaborate feasting, suggesting a complex religious life where such monumental ritual spaces would not be out of place. However, just like the astronomical calendar theory, this idea of processional pathways, while offering a plausible function for some of the lines, still leaves an unsettling void, a nagging question that gnaws at the edges of comprehension. If the primary purpose was for walking and ground-level ritual, why the intricate animal figures that are utterly lost in detail from the ground? A simple path for walking does not require the precise rendering of a hummingbird's beak or a monkey's tail. Details only revealed from thousands of feet up. If the intention was merely to create routes for pilgrims, why imbue them with an overall design that is impossible to discern without a bird's-eye view? Surely, ground-level markers or clear, unmistakable paths would have sufficed, if not served the purpose better. The disquieting truth is that while people could indeed walk along many of the lines, the design itself, the overall pattern, the complete animal figures remained completely inaccessible to those walking them. This creates a terrifying paradox. Were the Nazca people performing rituals on paths whose true form they could never appreciate, whose full meaning was always hidden from them? Were they merely actors in a grand play whose script and staging were directed by an unseen hand, for an unseen audience? The notion that the lines were walked upon is plausible, perhaps even likely for some of them. But the profound question remains, why did these paths need to coalesce into the recognizable, detailed shapes of animals and symbols when viewed from above? The unsettling implication is that while the Nazca walked, they were being watched. Their rituals, performed on the ground, might have been observed and appreciated by something far above them, something that understood the complete picture, the full, intricate message woven into the desert floor. This creates a chilling sense of being under surveillance, of performing for an audience that was not human, an audience whose very existence challenges our understanding of ancient history. The connection to ancient, forgotten rites gains a new, more sinister dimension when viewed through the lens of an external, aerial observer. Despite these earnest attempts to anchor the Nazca lines in practical human functions as astronomical calendars or ceremonial pathways, the colossal scale of the geoglyphs and, critically, the persistent need for an aerial vantage point leave an unsettling void. These earthly explanations, while providing valuable insights into potential Nazca practices, ultimately fall short of fully demystifying the profound enigma. They explain parts of the puzzle, but never the whole. And it is the whole, the complete, impossible picture, that truly haunts us. The central, inescapable problem remains the aerial perspective. No matter how many alignments we find, no matter how many ritual paths we trace, these theories cannot adequately explain why the Nazca people dedicated such immense resources and meticulous effort to create designs that could only be fully appreciated from above. If a line was simply for measuring the solstice, why did it need to be part of a colossal hummingbird? If a trapezoid was a gathering place, why did its shape contribute to a larger, invisible pattern? The sheer grandeur and precision of these geoglyphs seem utterly disproportionate to the functional needs that these theories propose. A farmer needs a simple marker for planting, not a mile-long monkey. A pilgrim needs a clear path, not an intricate spider whose true form is lost to the earthbound eye. The disconnect is too vast, the effort too immense, for these explanations to fully satisfy the chilling questions that the lines provoke. The unsettling void left by these theories is not merely an absence of knowledge. It is an active presence of unexplained purpose. It's the feeling that we are missing a critical piece of information, a fundamental understanding of the Nazca worldview that would make sense of this impossible art. The explanations offered are practical, logical, and grounded in human experience. But the Nazca lines themselves defy such simple categorization. They scream of a purpose that transcends the practical, a message that bypasses human vision, and a dedication that borders on the obsessive. This profound discrepancy between the proposed earthly functions and the undeniable aerial design fuels a deep sense of unease. It's as if we're trying to understand a complex alien language using only a children's dictionary. We grasp a few words, but the true meaning, the profound message, remains tantalizingly out of reach, shrouded in shadow. Do these theories truly account for the silent, watchful figures? The answer, hauntingly, is no. While they offer fragments of understanding, they fail to address the core terror. The Nazca lines are art made for an audience that was not human, or at least, not conventionally human. The colossal scale, the breathtaking precision, and the fundamental requirement of an aerial view elevate the lines beyond simple calendars or pathways. They become something far more profound, far more mysterious, and far more unsettling. The figures etched into the desert are not merely decorative. They possess a profound, almost sentient presence when viewed from above. They seem to watch, to wait, to convey a message that is both ancient and urgent. The theories of astronomical calendars and ceremonial paths, while valuable in their own right, serve almost as a distraction, a human attempt to rationalize the incomprehensible. They offer comfort in their practicality, a way to pull the Nazca lines back from the precipice of the truly unknown. But the nagging questions remain, like shadows lengthening across the desert floor. Why the grand design? Why the impossible perspective? What ancient message were the Nazca people truly trying to send? And to whom? The failure of purely earthly explanations to fully answer these questions leaves us with a heightened sense of the unresolved mystery, hinting at a truth that might be far more profound, far more terrifying, and far more alien than we are prepared to accept. The silent, watchful figures continue their vigil, their true purpose still hidden, still waiting for the day when the full, chilling revelation finally breaks through the veil of human understanding. The relentless sun beats down on the Nazca plain, illuminating the colossal figures etched into the desert floor. For all the earnest attempts by archaeologists to explain these enigmatic markings through the lens of human ingenuity and terrestrial purpose as astronomical calendars or ceremonial pathways, a profound and terrifying question stubbornly persists. These earthly interpretations, for all their meticulously gathered evidence, simply cannot fully reconcile the most unsettling fact of the Nazca lines: their inherent need for an aerial perspective. They explain what might have been measured or where people might have walked, but they utterly fail to explain why such monumental art was crafted for an eye that did not exist on Earth for millennia. This gaping hole in conventional understanding doesn't just leave a mystery. It creates a vacuum that is swiftly filled by whispers of the unseen, by theories that push the boundaries of human history and our place in the cosmos. These whispers speak of origins far beyond human capabilities, suggesting an influence that is both ancient and alien, hinting at a truth that is as chilling as it is captivating. This radical departure from conventional thought is often termed the ancient astronaut hypothesis. It proposes a terrifying possibility: that humanity's distant past was not entirely isolated, that our ancestors were not alone. The core idea is simple, yet utterly paradigm-shifting. Advanced beings from other planets visited Earth in antiquity, interacted with early human civilizations, and, perhaps, even influenced their development. In this unsettling narrative, the Nazca lines are not merely the artistic or scientific endeavors of an isolated culture. They become something far more profound and terrifying. They are interpreted as direct communication, signals, or even operational markers intended for these extraterrestrial visitors. It's a thought that resonates with a primal fear, the fear of the unknown. The fear that our history is not entirely our own, and that we may have been, and perhaps still are, subjects of an unseen, cosmic influence. Within this framework, the Nazca lines take on new, chilling meanings. The immense figures, visible only from above, are no longer just abstract art. They transform into giant beacons, signals broadcast into the vastness of the sky. For whom? For those who could see them. For those who possessed the technology of flight. For those who came from beyond the stars. Imagine a desperate people, struggling with the harsh realities of their environment, looking up at the night sky and seeing something more than just stars, seeing visitors, perhaps perceived as gods, descending from above. What better way to communicate with such beings than to etch messages directly into the earth on a scale that only they could comprehend? The very act of creation, the immense labor, becomes a profound act of desperate communication, a colossal hello or a plea for intervention, broadcast into the void. Even more unsettling is the interpretation of some of the long, straight, wide lines, particularly the trapezoidal shapes, as potential landing strips or runways for ancient spacecraft. While conventional archaeologists quickly dismiss this, pointing to the uneven surface of the desert or the lack of aerodynamic necessity for such runways for ancient craft. The hypothesis persists precisely because it attempts to answer the fundamental question: why so large and so straight? If not for an aerial purpose, the very thought of these pristine, geometric clearings serving as points of arrival for alien vessels is profoundly unsettling. It implies not just fleeting interaction, but repeated, deliberate visitation, a physical presence of non-human entities on our planet thousands of years ago. It transforms the silent desert into an ancient spaceport, a terrifying junction between our world and another. The idea suggests that the Nazca people were not just witnesses to these visitations, but active facilitators, preparing the ground for the arrival and departure of beings whose power and technology must have seemed godlike. Beyond signals and landing strips, some theorists view the lines as directional markers or navigation aids. If extraterrestrials visited Earth repeatedly, they might have needed guides to return to specific locations, to find resources, or to identify the settlements of the Nazca civilization itself. The intricate network of lines, sometimes pointing to distant mountain peaks or converging on specific points, could be interpreted as a primitive, yet effective, navigational chart for aerial travelers. This vision conjures an image of ancient Nazca as humble ground crew, meticulously maintaining the celestial maps for their otherworldly visitors, ensuring their path was always clear. This adds a layer of servitude, a chilling implication that humanity might have been in a subservient role to these powerful, unseen entities. A terrifying thought that fundamentally challenges our understanding of human autonomy and self-determination in the ancient world. The terrifying thought aspect of the ancient astronaut hypothesis cannot be overstated. It is a concept that fundamentally shakes the foundations of our historical narratives. If true, it means that humanity's journey was not a solitary one. It means we might have been observed, guided, or even, in the most extreme interpretations, engineered by external forces. This shatters the anthropocentric view of history, suggesting that our species' development was not solely an internal process driven by our own ingenuity, but perhaps influenced, or even manipulated, by intelligences far beyond our comprehension. The idea that ancient humans, in their struggles and triumphs, were not the sole masters of their destiny, but potentially subjects of a grander, cosmic experiment, is deeply unsettling. It evokes a sense of powerlessness, a feeling that our ancestors were pawns in a game whose rules they didn't understand, controlled by forces they could only perceive as divine. The fear of the unknown becomes palpable. If these beings visited before, what was their true agenda? Were they benevolent guides, indifferent observers, or something far more sinister? The very possibility forces a profound shift in perspective, making us question whether the history books we read are incomplete, censored versions of a far more complex, and perhaps terrifying, reality. The Nazca lines, in this context, cease to be mere archaeological curiosities and transform into stark, monumental evidence of an unsettling interaction, a silent scream across millennia, hinting at a truth too vast and too frightening for conventional history to contain. This brings us to a closer examination of specific geoglyphs that particularly fuel the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Figures that seem to speak of an undeniable, unsettling appeal to something beyond our world. Among the hundreds of animal figures and geometric shapes, one in particular stands out, an anomaly that whispers of the foreign, the so-called astronaut figure, etched into a hillside overlooking the Nazca Plain. This human-like but distinctly unhuman figure immediately commands attention. It has a large, rounded head, prominent, wide-set eyes that seem to stare out blankly, and a single arm raised upwards, almost in a gesture of greeting or farewell. Unlike the stylized animals and perfectly rendered geometric forms, the astronaut possesses an unsettling quality. It doesn't quite fit the artistic conventions seen in other Nazca art. Its features are exaggerated, almost alien in their proportions, making it starkly different from other human representations found in Nazca pottery or textiles. While archaeologists may label it as the Owl Man or simply a giant, an attempt to integrate it into conventional Nazca iconography, ancient astronaut theorists seize upon its distinct appearance as compelling evidence. They interpret it as a direct depiction of an extraterrestrial being, perhaps one who directly interacted with the Nazca people. The upward-reaching arm, in this interpretation, is not a random gesture but a deliberate signal. A wave, a form of communication directed heavenward. A recognition of where these beings came from or where they were destined to return. The unsettling nature of this figure lies in its profound otherness. It's a visual anomaly, a departure from the familiar, suggesting a subject that truly stood apart in the Nazca worldview. If the Nazca people were simply depicting their shamans or gods, why would this figure look so different from their other known depictions? This presence screams of an outside influence, a direct encounter that left such a profound impression that it demanded to be immortalized on a monumental scale, etched into the very landscape itself. As a silent witness, a frozen moment of contact, a chilling reminder that the Nazca might have seen something we are only now beginning to contemplate. This figure becomes a direct, unsettling appeal to the skies, a silent acknowledgement of visitors from another world. Then there are the omnipresent trapezoidal shapes, vast and numerous across the Nazca plain. While conventional theories suggest they were ceremonial pathways or water-related symbols, the ancient astronaut hypothesis offers a far more chilling interpretation. These immense trapezoids, some stretching for hundreds of meters in length and width, possess perfectly straight edges and precise angles. Their sheer scale and geometric perfection, especially when viewed from above, make them appear strikingly similar to clearings or prepared areas. In the ancient astronaut narrative, these trapezoids are not just abstract shapes. They are functional elements, designed for a specific purpose related to aerial visitation. They are seen as clearings, perhaps even crude landing zones, or areas specifically designated for the presence of extraterrestrial craft or beings. The repetition of these shapes, appearing in clusters and often terminating abruptly or connecting to other lines, reinforces the idea of deliberate, functional design rather than purely symbolic or ritualistic purposes. If they were merely paths for human feet, why such consistent, geometric forms? Why the vast, cleared surfaces, often devoid of further intricate designs? Unlike the animal figures, the unsettling thought here is that these were not just abstract marks on the ground, but active spaces, prepared and maintained for something else, something that arrived from the sky. The argument is that the Nazca people, perhaps instructed by their celestial visitors, created these vast, cleared areas as designated points for interaction. Imagine the Nazca, under the guidance of these sky gods, meticulously clearing these expansive areas, understanding that these spaces served a purpose beyond their immediate human comprehension. The trapezoids then become a direct, silent testimony to a repeated pattern of visitation, a network of designated zones for the landing, gathering, or interaction of extraterrestrial intelligences. It's an unsettling proposition that suggests the Nazca were not just passive observers but active participants in facilitating these ancient rendezvous. These specific geoglyphs, the haunting astronaut, and the imposing trapezoids are not just seen as evidence for the ancient astronaut theory. They are presented as direct communications. They are not merely art for art's sake. They are messages, undeniably targeted. And the target, in this view, is not another human culture across the desert, but rather the sky itself, the presumed source of these extraordinary visitors. The Nazca people, in this chilling interpretation, were not simply creating art. They were actively signaling to extraterrestrials. This implies a direct, perhaps even desperate, interaction. It suggests that these ancient people possessed a profound awareness of non-human intelligence, an awareness that compelled them to dedicate immense resources to creating these colossal aerial messages. This raises a cascade of profoundly unsettling questions. What did the Nazca people truly want to communicate? Was it a plea for help in their harsh environment? A desperate cry for rain or sustenance to beings they perceived as having ultimate power? Was it an act of worship, a monumental offering to beings they revered as gods, a testament to their awe and submission? Or was it a chronicle, a historical record of past encounters, a warning for future generations, or perhaps even a legacy left specifically for future visitors? Human or otherwise, the very act of such monumental communication, directed into the void, speaks of a profound sense of urgency, a deeply held belief in the existence and receptiveness of their intended audience. The unsettling notion that our ancestors might have been trying to make contact, or were already in contact, with non-human intelligence, forces us to reevaluate the very nature of human history and our perceived isolation in the cosmos. And this leads us to the ultimate, chilling implication. If these lines were truly not for human eyes, then what message were the Nazca people desperately trying to convey? And to whom? This question echoes endlessly in the vast, silent desert, a haunting reverberation that permeates every shadow and every gust of wind. The fundamental mystery of the Nazca lines hinges entirely on this aerial perspective. If the creators could not see their masterpiece, then the message was clearly intended for an observer capable of flight, an observer whose very existence challenges our understanding of the ancient world. The chilling implication is that the true content of this message might be beyond our current human comprehension. If it was for extraterrestrials, then we might be looking at alien grammar, alien symbolism, a language encoded in lines and shapes that we are only beginning to decipher, or perhaps are entirely misinterpreting. This adds another layer of fear, the fear of the incomprehensible, the unsettling notion that we are witnessing a conversation that was never meant for us, a secret exchange whose true meaning remains locked away in the annals of cosmic history. We are left feeling like eavesdroppers on a profoundly significant, yet utterly mysterious, dialogue. What kind of message would ancient people, under such circumstances, send to beings from the stars? The possibilities are terrifying in their scope. Was it a desperate plea in a harsh, unforgiving environment? Perhaps a cry for aid, for knowledge of sustainable agriculture, for water in a parched land, a monumental, silent prayer for intervention from a more advanced civilization. The Nazca people, reliant on the delicate balance of their ecosystem, might have perceived these visitors as rain givers, as life bringers, and the lines as a desperate appeal to their power? Or was it an act of worship, an immense offering to beings they perceived as divine? If the visitors possessed technologies far beyond human understanding, if they descended from the heavens, it is entirely plausible that the Nazca people would have perceived them as gods. The lines then become a colossal act of devotion, a physical manifestation of their reverence, a sacrifice of labor and ingenuity to appease or honor these sky deities. This makes the Nazca people seem vulnerable, subservient to an unseen power, their lives dictated by the whim of celestial entities. The thought that an entire civilization could have been so captivated, so utterly subservient to a non-human intelligence, is deeply disquieting. Perhaps it was a chronicle, a monumental record of past encounters, etched into the earth for future generations of visitors. Or even as a warning, did the Nazca document their interactions, hoping that future arrivals would understand their history? Or was it a request for return? The lines functioning as an invitation, a beacon to draw the visitors back to the Nazca plane. This particular interpretation is especially chilling the idea of ancient humans actively trying to reestablish contact with unknown, powerful entities, unaware of their true intentions, driven by a desperate hope or a profound sense of duty. The "to whom" question is equally potent. Not just any sky beings, but specific ones. Does the intricate nature of the lines, the consistency of some designs, imply repeated visits, a relationship forged over time? This suggests a deeper, more enduring connection than just a single, isolated encounter. And the nature of these beings, benevolent, indifferent, or malevolent, remains entirely unknown. The Nazca, in their ancient wisdom or desperation, would not have known either, adding to the inherent danger and profound uncertainty of their colossal communication. The vast, silent desert becomes a character in this unsettling drama. The wind whispers across the lines, carrying ancient secrets. The sun bakes the figures, preserving their message for millennia. These lines themselves are silent sentinels, forever broadcasting their unknown message into the void. And the truly terrifying thought is that the message was received, or perhaps is still being received. The Nazca lines stand as a monumental, unanswered question, a profound mystery that continues to echo in the vast, silent desert. They are a constant, unsettling reminder that humanity is not alone, and that our distant past might hold secrets about an interaction with non-human intelligence that we are only now beginning to glimpse. A truth that could forever change our understanding of who we are, where we came from, and what truly lurks beyond the stars. The lines watch and wait for their true meaning to be revealed, and for the chilling implications to finally unravel. The desert holds its breath. These colossal symbols remain silent, watchful. What terrifying truth, etched into the very earth, still awaits its full, chilling revelation? Thank you for daring to delve into the unknown with Grave Veil Echoes. If these whispers from the past captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows.